They say marriage is teamwork, but sometimes one person ends up carrying the whole team. For most of my life, that person was me. My name is Lauren Coburn. I'm 45, a wife of 20 years, and, until recently, the invisible backbone of my husband's success. I built my life around Darian, supported his ambitions, ran our household, and sacrificed my own career dreams to raise our children and keep his world spinning. Tonight was supposed to be different. A night of appreciation, of being seen. We were at Belle Ciel, an upscale restaurant just outside Richmond, Virginia. Elegant chandeliers, warm candlelight, linen-covered tables filled with familiar faces, family, friends, Darian's business partners. The air buzzed with polished laughter and expensive perfume. I had spent the last week helping organize it all, thinking, naively, that maybe this year I'd be more than just the one behind the curtain. I looked around, smiling, but something gnawed at me. Darian had been off lately, distracted, distant. He checked his phone more than he checked in with me. He canceled lunch plans, skipped conversations. The kind of cold that creeps in slowly, until you're frozen and didn't notice when it started. Still, I tried, smiled, wore the dress he once said he loved. I wanted to believe this night would bring us closer, that I'd hear him say he couldn't have done it without me. He stood up to give a toast. "Everyone, thank you for being here tonight," he began, raising his glass. "And of course, thank you to my lovely wife, Lauren, the woman behind the bills." He chuckled. Some guests laughed, one of those uneasy, polite chuckles. But it grew. Laughter spread. I sat frozen. That wasn't a joke. That was a line rehearsed to humiliate me. And it worked. "And now," he continued, gesturing, "I'd like to bring up someone who's been a real partner to me these past few months. Selena." Selena, his assistant, stood. Young, polished, confident. She walked to the front as if she belonged there. He handed her a bouquet of white lilies. Not to me. The flowers weren't even my favorite, but that wasn't the point. People clapped, unsure whether to cheer or cringe. I heard whispers. She's just his assistant, right? Why would he do that in front of Lauren? I kept my face still, smiled, just enough to not fall apart. My thoughts, though, screamed. If I show it hurts, he wins. So I didn't blink. I watched. I absorbed, like a woman watching her life turn into someone else's punchline. The music played on, cheerful jazz, like a cruel joke against the silence inside me. Then, the room shifted. The restaurant doors opened again. Mr. Collins, our longtime bank manager, walked in, scanning the room until his eyes landed on me. He smiled. "Happy Owner's Day, Mrs. Coburn," he said loudly, walking straight over. People turned. Darian stiffened. "Owner's Day?" someone whispered. "Wait, what?" Mr. Collins shook my hand. "Just wanted to offer my congratulations. As of this morning, the annual ownership confirmation went through. You're still listed as the full owner of Coburn Holdings." A mistake, an oversight, but not by me. Darian's face drained of color. He knew he had forgotten to revoke the annual transfer trigger, the one we set up years ago when he needed me on the paperwork. He'd been so busy trying to erase me, he'd forgotten to cover his tracks. I didn't flinch. I nodded, thanking Mr. Collins with a calm I didn't know I had. The energy in the room changed. No more whispers, just silence. Selena took a step back. Darian's smile cracked. I sat there, letting the justice of that moment wrap around me like armor. They tried to erase me from the story I wrote. That thought stayed with me. I stood, raised my glass, not for a toast, but to close the night. "Thank you all for coming," I said, voice even. "It means more than you know." My hand trembled slightly, but my eyes held steady. In that silence, I heard my father's voice, long gone, but never far. "Silence can be sharper than a knife if you know when to use it." And tonight, I used it. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I let the truth speak louder than any scene I could have made. As the guests began to leave, awkward, quiet, unsure whether to say goodbye or pretend nothing happened, Darian walked toward me, smile fake, eyes alert. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't flinch. "Yes, we do," I said, placing my glass down. "But not tonight." I walked past him without waiting for a response. He doesn't know yet. I'm done being invisible. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every moment, wondering how long he had been planning to erase me. I drove home alone that night. The road was dark, but not darker than the silence waiting for me. Darian had stayed behind to wrap things up. I didn't ask. I didn't care. The house greeted me like a stranger, quiet, still, stripped of warmth. I dropped my clutch on the hallway table and stood there, frozen. No footsteps behind me. No voice calling my name. Just me and the echo of what had just happened. The walls knew. They absorbed the cold of that room, the fake applause, the forced smiles. I walked into the kitchen and poured a glass of red wine, watching it swirl in the light. My reflection in the glass bent sideways, distorted, cracked. I didn't recognize her. I brought the glass to my lips, then set it down untouched. My stomach had no room for anything tonight. How long had he seen me as replaceable? When did we shift from partners to props, from we to me watching him? I kept asking questions I didn't want the answers to. I leaned against the counter and whispered my father's words, ones that rang louder than the music at that restaurant. Pride doesn't make noise, it just stops clapping. The night passed in fragments. I couldn't sleep. I watched the digital clock blink its way into morning. When the light finally slipped through the blinds, I got up, washed my face, and pulled on a sweatshirt. The mask of normalcy had to come on. Darian strolled in like nothing happened, whistling, scrambled eggs already sizzling in the pan. "Morning," he said, like we were still married in the traditional sense. I nodded. He kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch, but I didn't lean in either. "You want toast?" I sat at the table, watching him move. Effortless, polished, like a man playing husband on TV. And just like that, I saw it. How easily he switched between roles. The smiling husband, the slick businessman, the man who forgot how to look his wife in the eye when it mattered. "You were amazing last night," he added, flipping a pancake. "Really helped tie everything together." I smiled, not because I believed him, but because I was documenting every word, every movement. He slid a plate in front of me, then handed me a white envelope. "Just some investment documents," he said casually. "Nothing major, just cleaning up the books. I figured you'd want clarity with everything going on." I opened it slowly, just a peek. "Thanks," I said. "I'll take a look later." He nodded, sipped his coffee, and moved on like it was any other Saturday. But I knew better. By noon, I was in my study with the door locked. I opened the envelope fully. Pages of legal language, transfers, asset reallocation. Then it hit me. Buried in the jargon was a clause. He was trying to transfer my inherited property, land from my mother's side, into Coburn Holdings, his company. And Selena, her name was on it. A co-signer. I sat back in my chair, the room spinning not with emotion, but with clarity. It wasn't just the party. That night wasn't about a toast or flowers. It was a distraction. A curtain pulled to keep me from seeing the stage behind it. I whispered, "So this was the plan all along." But I didn't cry. I didn't tear up the documents. I made copies. Every page. Then slid them into the bottom drawer of my desk and turned the key. Let him think I was still asleep. People show you who they are. Believe them the first time. Maya Angelou said that, and she wasn't wrong. My phone buzzed. It was Grace, my daughter. "Hi, honey," I answered, softening my voice. "Hey, Mom. You okay? You didn't sound happy last night." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired." She paused. "I saw photos online, from the party. Selena tagged Dad, called him the best mentor ever." I gripped the edge of my desk. "She's probably just excited," I said. Grace didn't push. She knew me well enough to feel the lie. After the call ended, I sat for a long time, then reached into a box on the shelf and pulled out an old photo. Me, Darian, and the kids. Years ago. Before the suits. Before the offices. When we still fit on one couch, laughing over takeout. That version of us was gone. I set the photo beside my father's old watch, the one he gave me when I turned 30. Time felt heavier now, like every second was leading to something bigger than me. That evening, I sat at my desk again, the wine glass still untouched from last night. I opened my planner, flipped to a blank page, and wrote 5 words. Find out what he's hiding. I looked up at the window. The woman in the reflection looked sharper. Not angry, not broken, just awake. And then my phone buzzed again. A text. No name. You deserve to know what your husband did last year. I stared at my phone longer than I'd ever stared at anything. The message glowed on the screen. You deserve to know what your husband did last year. It felt heavy, like a warning. I thumbed back to the sender, but no name appeared. My heart clenched. Was it real? A trap? Or proof? I typed, hesitated, then slammed my thumb on send. Who are you? The seconds stretched. Finally, words appeared. Meet me tomorrow at the Willow Diner, noon. Beneath it, come alone. My breathing caught. The voice in my mind whispered, don't go. This is how women end up in documentaries. But even as caution screamed, curiosity flared brighter. I needed answers. I sent a text to Grace. Change of meeting tomorrow. No details. She responded, be safe, Mom. I tucked that in my mind. I printed a hard copy of the transfer document Darian gave me the day after the party. I folded it into the pocket of my bag. Just in case. I would not leave empty. I double-checked my rear view as I drove to the diner the next day. The morning light was crisp, nothing like last night's shadows. I sat in my car 5 minutes early. I watched the street, the slow drift of pedestrians. I typed the address into navigation, over and over, convincing myself I could walk away if it felt wrong. At exactly noon, I saw her, Jenna. I recognized her silhouette before my mind processed it. Former assistant, absent tones, whispered rumors. She waved, half shy, half urgent. We sat across from each other in a corner booth. Coffee between us, but it was more pretense than refreshment. She slid a folder across the table. I never meant to stay silent, she said quietly. Inside were documents, credit lines, financial statements, emails. Darian and Selena had used my name, my credit, to secure a large business credit line, one I had no knowledge of. My jaw clenched. A photo dropped out. Selena holding a check with my name printed on it. I swallowed hard, mind racing. I thought betrayal was private. Turns out, mine came with receipts. Jenna's voice trembled as she continued. That check? From a company he controls? He set it up so no one would question it. He banked on you trusting him. She slid a USB drive across, eyes intense. You'll want to hear this. Back home, I sat at my desk under soft lamplight. I plugged in the USB drive. The audio crackled, then came his voice, Darian's voice, laughing with someone about leveraging her ignorance, handing over deals because she never reads the small print. My hands shook as I recorded it on my phone. My own voice whispered, he underestimated me. That's his real mistake. I opened spreadsheets, lined them side by side. The check, the transfers, the line of credit. Patterns emerged. Every move had purpose. Every anomaly traced back to well before the birthday party. If they used my name as leverage, I resolved then, I'd use my name as a weapon. I picked up my notepad and wrote 3 lines. 1. Lawyer. 2. Freeze assets. 3. Public truth. I reached into my contacts, dialed Angela, my college friend turned attorney. I didn't open with everything. I said, I need your help. Urgent. The pause on the other end told me she understood. I scheduled a meeting. That evening, Darian came home and found me sitting at the kitchen table, silent. He seemed alert. "You're quiet tonight," he said. I looked up. "Silence doesn't mean surrender," I said. "It means I'm watching." His smirk flickered. He said nothing more. Just before bedtime, I glanced at my phone. A calendar invite appeared. Family Business Roundtable, introducing the next evolution of our legacy. My lips curved in a thin smile. I murmured, "Let's make this the Last Supper." I pulled into the parking garage of the building I once helped design. Every inch of glass and brushed steel used to feel like progress. Now it just looked cold, impersonal, like the people inside it. They thought I'd show up clueless, dressed for optics, with a smile frozen in place. But I walked in wearing navy, clean lines, no distractions, and a face that didn't flinch. The receptionist barely looked up when I gave my name. I'd been in that lobby 100 times. Today, I was invisible, or at least, they hoped I'd act like it. I stepped into the elevator alone. As the doors closed, I let the silence settle in. That's when I told myself, today I am visible. No more playing the good sport. The boardroom was already half full. Men in suits. Polished women who knew the script. At the head of the table, Darian stood like the host of a show he never auditioned for, just inherited by default. Selena sat next to him, flipping through papers like she belonged. There wasn't a name tag for me, not even a chair set aside. I paused, let the moment hang in the air, then pulled a seat from the wall. No one stopped me, but I saw the glances. I saw the dismissals. Darian began, "Welcome, everyone. Today's about the future of our brand, our evolution." He looked right past me. I didn't interrupt. I took notes. I scanned the documents passed down. One line caught my eye. Proposed shareholder revision, nullifying existing veto clauses. That was mine, my clause, my protection, struck through in red. They didn't say it, but they didn't have to. They were writing me out of my own legacy. My heartbeat didn't speed up. It slowed, focused. After the vote, after the papers were signed, Darian lifted a glass of red wine. "To the woman who brought new energy to this company," he said, smiling at Selena. "To Selena, the new face of our brand." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and handed her a key. The key? The one to the executive suite I designed from scratch 10 years ago, down to the paint color, down to the damn drawer pulls. She laughed like it was all cute, like it was just a gesture. I clapped once, twice, then I stopped. My palm stung, my jaw locked. In my head, I repeated it like scripture. They handed my keys to a stranger. After the meeting, I found him in the hallway, talking to someone I didn't recognize. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. "When did ours become hers?" I asked. He looked at me like I'd just spilled wine on his suit. "Lauren, you're being emotionally needy." I smiled. "Don't test how quiet I can get before I shout." He leaned in, smug. "You already shouted at the wrong time last night." I didn't blink. I just turned and walked, heels clicking sharp against the floor. My breath steady, my shoulders even. I wouldn't let him see what that comment did. But inside, something permanent shifted. Near the elevators, one of the older board members approached. Said nothing, just slipped a small USB drive into my hand, then walked away like we'd never spoken. Their reflection lingered in the glass for a moment. I slipped the drive into my coat pocket without looking down. My fingers curled around it like it was a matchstick. And just like that, the fire had a fuse. I woke in the middle of the night, heart pounding, the silence of the house pressing in. My mind replayed every twist, the emails, the party, the notice declaring me unfit. The ceiling above me held no comfort. I swung my legs from the bed and sat on its edge. The house was still, too still. I reached out, touched my wedding photo on the nightstand. Him, me, smiling. It felt like a mask. So many staged smiles hiding our fractures. My throat tightened. Tears didn't come. The betrayal felt too sharp for tears now. Instead, I whispered, "No more being passive." I made my way to the study and lit the lamp. On the desk lay folders of documents, ones I'd assembled in the last days. I opened a clean page in my notebook and listed assets I still controlled: the Virginia property, my trust funds, the old blueprints of what I'd built with my own hands. I circled weak spots in Darian's documents, drafts unsigned, clauses ambiguous, signatures missing. The plan formed slowly but surely. And I emailed Ambrose, "Need to talk, privately." Then Angela, "Call me, urgent." I printed the emails from the USB, the contract drafts Jenna passed me, the design sheets nobody realized I had shared. I plotted a meeting at headquarters, under the guise of reconciliation. I would walk into their stronghold armed. The decision felt deliberate, necessary, my pain refined into power. The next morning, I dressed in black, a statement of presence, not mourning. I entered the boardroom with calm steps, heads turned. The room that had once felt hollow now seemed too small for all their secrets. I placed a hefty binder of evidence, contracts, transactions, email threads, on the table. Silence followed. Darian flushed and tried to mask it with a cough. Selena's eyes flicked to me with something like recognition. I cleared my throat and spoke. "I left voluntarily? That's false." I pushed the binder open. "Some of you praised the redesign as new vision." It was my vision. I pointed to pages bearing my name, my ideas, my drafts. Faces stiffened. The pedestal he built began to tilt. I asserted my claim. I wasn't a bystander. I was the author of what you now call progress. Some shifted uncomfortably. Darian's jaw tightened. The new power balance began to settle. That evening, I walked into the gala where they were unveiling their new brand campaign. The venue glowed. The screen behind them lit up with a tribute to past leadership. My face? Absent, replaced by Selena in early images, scenes I once curated. I stepped onto the stage, phone in hand. A hush fell. I tapped play. The USB audio filled the silence, Darian's voice discussing leveraging her loyalty. The crowd gasped. Selena's facade cracked. Darian's pause stretched. I addressed them all. "You can erase me from your slideshows, but you can't erase your complicity." I walked off stage with my head high. The truth disarmed their facade. As I exited, security intercepted me. A guard held up a small recorder. "Found this in your purse," he said. My mind raced. They escorted me to a side room. The door snapped shut behind me. Darkness. A single voice whispered, "I never thought you'd be the one to bring the truth here." Recognition struck me like a jolt. They expected quiet. They underestimated me. I stood against the back wall of the gala, just outside the glow of the chandelier lights. My dress wasn't loud, but deliberate. Nothing about me tonight was accidental. I watched Darian and Selena glide from group to group, shaking hands, laughing too easily. My eyes didn't follow their movements. I tracked reactions, the forced smiles, the sideways glances, the quick, nervous shifts when someone noticed me watching. I sipped water from a crystal glass, trying to still the rhythm of my own pulse. But it wasn't fear tonight. It was awareness. Ownership. Every breath I took reminded me I wasn't hiding anymore. Not in business, not in marriage, not in rooms where they once made me invisible. I caught a whisper behind me. "She's just a guest tonight." I smiled at the floor. "Tonight, I'm more than a guest." The crowd hushed as Darian raised his glass. He tapped the microphone and said, "To new chapters, and to my partner Selena, whose vision has carried us into this bold new era." I raised my glass too, but not in toast. I should clarify, when you say our vision, you mean the one that excluded the woman who built half of it. People turned. Some blinked. A few froze. Darian waved a hand, annoyed. One of the event staff approached me, gesturing for quiet, but I didn't flinch. "You don't erase someone with applause," I said. "You just expose your need to." My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The silence in the room did the lifting. He blinked, speechless. The smirk on Selena's lips curled tight, uncertain now. Murmurs began to ripple through the tables. My heart raced, not from nerves, but control. I'd claimed my place, not requested it. Later, as the night moved and music returned, I passed near a cluster of guests when a man in a gray tux turned, barely glancing. "Excuse me, I'll have a glass of Chardonnay." I turned to face him. "I'm actually a guest here." His cheeks flushed. He stumbled back. The conversation around him fell flat. Selena glanced our way and gave the faintest grin. I caught her eye, then looked toward Darian. "Funny how the roles reversed so quickly," I said softly, walking to the bar, letting the words settle in their ears. But even strength has its cracks. I stepped into the women's lounge, sat on the velvet bench, and let my hands tremble. Not long, just enough to let it out. Then I straightened. I'd turned their show into my moment. I knew it. I felt it. I reminded myself what the bank manager had let slip. There were more layers to peel back, more threads to pull. This wasn't vengeance. It was reclamation. For every silent dinner, for every time I was left off an email, for every nod and smile that was really just dismissal, tonight wasn't noise. It was precision. I exited the lounge. A young server paused as I passed, slipped a folded paper into my hand without a word. I opened it as I stepped into the ballroom. "Check the photo slideshow." The lights dimmed again. A soft melody played. Images flashed on screen. Selena with investors, Darian at fundraisers. One frame, one brief flicker. My wedding photo, then gone. I stood still. The timing wasn't a glitch. It was intentional. A final attempt to fade me out of history. But erasure only works on those who don't fight back. I breathed in, held it, and whispered to myself. They thought they erased me. But tonight, I shift the narrative. I arrived at the gala under a sky as dark as the stakes. The ballroom was draped in candlelight and white linen. Guests glided in tuxedos and gowns. I knew tonight was wired to humiliate me again, but I dressed in armor, not elegance. My hand closed over the folder in my clutch. Inside lay evidence. My resolve had turned steel. At the entrance, I caught Selena at the podium, perched like a queen. Darian stood behind, arms folded. Everything seemed staged. I inhaled. Tonight, I wouldn't be the shadow. During Darian's opening remarks, he paused, cleared his throat with practiced care. "We care for our elders," he said, voice softening toward me. "Our matriarch deserves comfort in her golden years." The screen behind him flickered to a promotional slide, Silver Haven Senior Living, with my face faintly superimposed over a peaceful home. The image spun a lie, that I was frail, a relic, dispensable. In that moment, I locked eyes with a board member. I mouthed low, "They weaponize age." The ballroom hushed. Guests shifted. What was meant to diminish me instead cut him. As guests mingled afterward, a local influencer approached, hand extended. "Excuse me, can you show me the restroom?" she asked, loud enough for cameras. My brows stayed calm. I matched her with calm voice. "I'm not staff tonight, so I belong here more than most." Flashbulbs popped. Selena's lips curled into a sly smile. Darian's posture stiffened. The room swallowed the subtle shift, me visible where they insisted I fade. Then the moment came. Darian stepped forward, crystal plaque in hand. "To Selena, woman of vision," he declared. The crowd erupted in applause. His tone praised her bold leadership. I stood from my seat, folder in hand. I walked to the stage. The applause dimmed. Silence spread. I cleared my throat. "Vision without origin is theft," I said, voice measured. The crowd gasped. I held up the USB drive I'd carried all night. "I will stream the evidence tonight. Not to shame, just to show what you've hidden." Selena's smile cracked. Darian's face turned ashen. The tide shifted. I stepped down from the stage. The screen flickered. Behind me, the projector loaded file names, evidence poised to reveal years of theft. I gripped the mic. "If you erase me from your pictures, watch them fail to erase me from the truth." The lights dimmed. Files began to load.